Welcome back. In this video, we will discuss about how to implement a solution using if-elif. In the previous video, we discussed about the standard structure of if-elif. And in this video, we will take a look at an actual program. How do we write it? How do we take that problem description and write a pseudocode out of that? And then how do we translate that pseudocode into a Python program? So here is a problem that we had already discussed in the previous videos where we implemented it using nested if-else. And in this video, we're going to implement the same problem using if-elif. Here's the problem. It says, write a program to ask user to enter yearly salary, calculate the tax based on the following salary range. If the salary is over 100,000, tax is at 20%, 80 to 100,000, tax is 15%, 50 to 79,000, blah. 10%, so on and so forth. We already discussed about this in the previous video. So if you have to write these steps in a plain English, always start writing the code, especially if you're a beginning programmer, write these steps, write these instructions in plain English. And these instructions in plain English are also called pseudocode. And once you write this pseudocode, you can translate this into Python code. So first thing, you have to collect the yearly salary from the user. And in the first if condition, you are checking to see if the salary is over 100,000. And that's the first if condition. If it is over 100,000, tax is 20%. In the next elif condition, you are checking to see if the salary belongs to this range, 80 to 100,000. In the next elif condition, you are checking to see if the salary belongs to 50 to 79,999. In the next elif condition, you are checking to see if the salary belongs to 30 to 49,000 range. And the last is the else block, means if none of these conditions are true, then it is going to default into this block here. And then at the end, we display the salary, tax, and all of that. So let's take a look how we can implement this, but I'm going to show you some trick here. This is the code that we had already discussed in the previous videos. And you see how I'm going to convert this into, this was done using nested if-else. So I'm going to convert this into if-elif. Boom, that's it. And then I'm going to highlight this, cut it, and then bring it, indent it. Similarly, I'm going to highlight this portion here and cut it, and then bring this code to the left. And the last one is that, bring it to the left. And all of these should have the same indentation. It shows you the level of indentation here. There you go. Very simple. So here is we're collecting the yearly salary. Tax is 0. You start the tax variable set to be 0. And in the first if condition, if you are checking to see if the salary is over 100,000, if it is so, tax is 20%. In the next elif condition, you are checking to see if the salary belongs in the range of 80 to 100,000. If so, tax is calculated at 15%. And in the next elif, if-elif, you're checking to see if the salary belongs in the range of 50 to 79,000. You calculate the tax at that rate and so on and so forth, right? And if this is the last one, that means if none of these conditions are true, as we discussed earlier, the computer goes into this block. So I'm going to run through this once or twice and demonstrate how this works. I want to put a breakpoint, turn the debugging on, enter the salary. First, I will type 120,000. So as you see, it stopped over here. Now it checks the first condition, 120,000. Is this greater than 100,000? Obviously, yes, that means true. Condition is true. So you will see that it is going to go to this line and then skip right away to that line. So if I hover over that, boom. Now right now, this line has not been executed yet. Right now, the tax is 0. And now you see tax became 24,000. As I mentioned, you see it right away jumped to the line 14. From this point onwards, if you don't want to go line by line, just hit resume, and then that ends the program. It finishes the rest of the instructions you see here. So one more time, let's run it. Now this time I'm going to type the salary, let's say that falls within that range. So first condition is false. You see, as I mentioned, it proceeds to the next condition only if the previous condition is false. The previous condition in this case was false. It proceeded to the next condition. Do you think this condition is going to be true? The salary is 55,000, so this is false here. And this is going to be true. Salary is less than 50,000. So as you know, this is going to be false, this is going to be true, and you know how the AND works. When you have AND, both conditions have to be true. If one of them is false, then the whole thing becomes false. So let's skip that. Now, what about this? Yearly salary is 55,000. Is it greater than 50? Yes. Is it less than 79,900? Yes. That means this condition is true and this condition is true. Since both conditions are true and you have an AND in between, the AND requires that all conditions have to be true. Now, both conditions are true. It is going to go over here. Right now, the tax is 0. And let's see. There we go. And it calculates the tax at 10%. And then boom, it skipped, as you see, it skipped the remaining instructions. And it came out of the if-elif and straight to the lines that are outside the if-elif. And then you can complete that. So remember, this is the if-elif structure here, right? And one of the condition is true. It simply skips the rest of the if-elif and then comes outside the if-elif and executes the instructions outside the if-elif. So now I want to demonstrate the last use case here, that is this. So when does the computer reach over here? When none of the conditions are true. So I'm going to run it again, and this time I'm going to enter 25,000. This should ensure that it will reach over here. First condition is false, second condition false, third condition false, fourth condition false. You see, it reached. So as I mentioned, if none of the conditions are true, the computer by default goes to the else block and comes out, runs all of these, boom. So I believe the last block that we said, this is not required here. If I take it off, it will still work. It is not required. Just because I put it there, it doesn't mean you have to have it. If you don't want to have it, it's up to you, whatever the problem that you are trying to solve. Anyway, I've set the tax as 0 here, right? So that is actually in this particular program, it's not required. Enter the salary, let's say 25,000. So that condition is false, next is false, next is false, next is false, boom. So the else block in the if-elif is not actually required, but it oftentimes, the program problem description may tell you, it may tell you that if the salary range doesn't belong to any of these, then display some message or something like that. Then in that case, you have to have the else block here, okay? Thank you, and we will see you in the next video.